Manage Database has two other tabs that we briefly mentioned and cover a few things about it, but I want to go over it more extensively. So let's go back into Manage Database. And the area that we're talking about are tables and relationships. But before we get there, there's a few other things I want to mention. First of all, if you are sorted by field name and click this, you can reverse the sort order. That's what this little icon here is for. And I want to make some notes about printing. If we select one field and hit print, it's only going to select that field and print it. If we shift click on many fields, when we print, it's going to print all those fields out. If we select all of our fields, do a Control A on Windows or Command or Apple A on Macintosh, we have all of them selected now. Then when we click print, we're going to get all of them. So let's try that. Now obviously we can't print to a printer and allow you to see it, but we can go ahead and save as PDF. And we'll save to the desktop and we'll call it contacts_fields. There we go. That looks good. We'll hit save. And then we'll hide FileMaker Pro. And then we'll see that PDF there. And we can double click on it. And we'll zoom in a little bit. And we want to scroll over there to where we can see stuff. There we go. And you can see it's simply giving you all the information about those fields, their field type, all the information so that you can store it away in a safe place. Maybe you want to create a PDF and email it to somebody who's working with you on the project, or maybe one of your clients. Or maybe you want to just print them out and store them somewhere in case something happens to the database. You'll have a backup on paper. So let's move back to FileMaker. And let's move over to the Tables section. Now, we briefly covered some of the things in the Tables section, but I want to get more intimate with it and make sure you understand, even though our Contact Manager is only going to have one table, I still want to make sure you have some of the details about how this works so that we can plant the seed so when we do start making more tables, you feel more comfortable with it. So let's go ahead and type in a new table here. We'll just call it New Table. And we'll hit Create. You notice it has 0 fields, 0 records, and we'll talk about occurrences in the graph. That refers to the relationship section. So what we're going to do is cover all the little things you can do here. You can come in here and of course rename this. Just hit change and it changes it for you. In fact, it even goes and changes the table occurrence in the relationship. You can sort by table and as well as choose it from here. Source, details, occurrence, and graph. All these options are there. We can choose creation order, custom order. Everything's there. So usually the typical way to sort them is by table name. But realize that source, even though it has this up here, doesn't really allow you to sort it. Neither does details or occurrences or graph. These are just informational headers. And the source refers to something we're going to get into later. Typically your source is going to be FileMaker, but it could be an external source such as ESS. The details are the fields and the records that you have in there. And then occurrences in the graph, we'll cover those in a second. Now again, you also have the print button here. Want to make sure you see that. You can print all these tables if you want, all the details, whatever one's selected, or if you have multiple selected, that determines what's going to get printed out. So make sure you understand all of the ways to manipulate this dialog as well as the fields dialog, because in that way you can more efficiently use this space. Now there are two ways to look at the fields, because there are fields for contacts and fields for the new table too. So if I double click on contacts, I'm over here in this section. I can come over here and double click on new table too, and you can see I have no fields, so I'll add some. And if you want to, you can change to contacts and show their fields here, or show new table 2 again. It's up to you. You just want to make sure you have full mastering of this dialog so you can get around and do things, because sometimes it's easier to go up here and pop this up and choose it that way, and sometimes you're over here and you just want to go to that those fields for that table. So it all depends on what you need to do. Now if we go over to relationships, you're going to notice that we have contacts and new table 2. Now these seem to be exactly the same thing as our tables, and they kind of are. The difference is you can have as many occurrences of contacts in your graph, which refers to the relationships tab, as you want. That's because this section is for creating relationships between tables. And really it doesn't create relationships between tables, it creates them between table occurrences. They're kind of like aliases or shortcuts. They're really looking at the same data in the table, but they really are defined by their relationship. And we're going to get into relationships later. I just want to plant the seed that these are not tables or table occurrences, and they relate back and they're associated with those tables, but the idea behind this is to make relationships in here, and you want to remember that. So we're going to go back over to tables here, and I'm going to actually delete this. And you remember this option we checked here, also remove occurrences of these tables in the graph. Well, I'm not going to check it this time. We're going to go back over here, and you're going to notice we still have the table occurrence and it says the table is missing. This kind of proves that relationship between a table and a table occurrence. We don't want that to happen, so let's get rid of this first. Just click on it so it highlights, click the delete key on your keyboard, and then click remove. We'll go back to tables. We'll make new table 3, create it, go over to relationships, you'll see that that table occurrence is there. Come back, hit delete, and this time we'll say also remove all of the occurrences, so if there's more than one it'll remove it. And you come back over here and you notice it's gone, so you want to make sure you understand how that works. So again, I'm just planting the seed about relationships. Tables are easy to understand. Table occurrences and relationships not as easy. But realize there's lots of buttons down here to discuss, and we will get into those at later times, not right now. Also realize you can print from here. So there's a lot of features that you can use. Becoming familiar with the features allows you to be more comfortable. It's like cooking in your kitchen. Make sure you know where the stove is and how to turn it on before you start cooking. Make sure you know your knives are in this. Anything to make things easier. So think of this as your kitchen. Know where all the tools are. Even if you don't know how to use every one exactly right now, get familiar with them, and we'll use them more as we go through this tutorial.